Hey, everybody, welcome to the Mental Edge podcast from the inside out. And my name is Stacy Goodrich, and I'm your host, and I'm really excited today. This is episode number 7. And today I have some great guests, and we're going to talk about parenting of athletes. And we all know parenting athletes can be very difficult. We're trying to not get in their way. We're trying to support them, but we're most of the time in their way. And as some of you may know, I have 4 children. My youngest daughter was a Division I gymnast. She just graduated from Utah State. She did gymnastics, 25 hours a week, basically her entire life. And there are many things that I said wrong to her. And so we're going to uncover a lot of the things that we have as problems as parents, and then solutions to those problems from the inside out. And so I want to introduce my guests today, TImberlee and Cassandra. And TImberlee and Cassandra, you guys have been with me for how long?
About 2000, since 2019, I think 2018, 2019, off and on, but then
Yeah.
in the past few years, it's been more consistent.
Yes, and that's kind of the thing that I want parents to know. It when people, hire me to work with their athletes, it may be 3 sessions, it may be 25, but typically you're gonna get a lot out of that 3-session package. Would you agree, Cassandra?
Yes.
And so tell me, just introduce yourselves and tell me a little bit about like what level you're competing, Cassandra, and then we'll go from there.
Okay. I'm Cassandra. I am 14, and this year I'm going to be competing level 8.
And TImberlee.
I'm TImberlee, and I'm Cassandra's mom, and I'm thankful that we have you in our lives because it has definitely made her journey a lot easier.
Awesome. Well, it like I always tell parents, we're all messing up our kids. Like it's inevitable. I can say I love you to Olivia and she'll be like, Mom, you're so annoying. And so this is not about not, what we are supposed to do perfectly. It's really more about being able to have those difficult conversations, understanding, my daughter would come home and go, oh my God, Mom, I think my back is broken again. And in my head, I want to say, why don't you just quit? Like what is the point, right? But I can't insert myself with what I think all the time because that's not serving her. It's not helpful. I can say, okay, how can I help you? What do you need me to do? How do you want me to support you? Those are great conversations to have with your children to keep them what I call in their A circle without me inserting myself in a place where they don't want me. And so can you guys think back before you met me and Cassandra, from your perspective, way back when, can you give us a problem you were having or something that you were struggling with back then?
There are a lot of different things back then, but I would definitely say like there would be days where I would try to go for a skill and I just wouldn't do it. I'd come home and then I'd try to say something about it, and then I'd keep getting like whatever she was thinking about it like on that topic, and then we would go back and forth, and then it would get heated pretty fast just because it's a touchy subject for me when I'm talking about it. And I feel like when I talk more about it, it just constantly made it worse when I was getting other people's opinions on it too.
I didn't know how to
Interesting.
I didn't know how to let it go. So I would continue and thought I was being helpful by, oh, well, do you need privates? Or, oh, do you need this? And I didn't realize at the time, and I didn't realize for many, many years later, that when I was asking those questions, I was telling her, or in her mind, she was thinking that I didn't believe in her, that she couldn't do it on her own. And I didn't give her the time to process what she needed she just needed someone to sound, to be a soundboard. She just needed a mom. She didn't need me to put my thoughts and feelings into it, but I thought I was being helpful at the time. So was not.
Exactly. Parents only want to help their children. There's not a parent in the world that doesn't want to support their child and their athlete. But sometimes athletes will perceive it as they're trying to fix me. Like I'm broken. And now if I talk about the thing that makes me look like I'm broken, then they're going to try to fix it when that's not what I need. I'm not broken and I don't need fixing. And so I don't need someone to come in and jump in my A circle and try to fix me. I just need to vent. I need to talk about it. I need to get it out. But we as parents don't want our children uncomfortable. We don't want them to feel bad. We don't want, and so we're constantly trying to protect them from these ideas, which really, quite honestly, is the opposite of helping them. I remember my daughter came home, and this is where it all started. She was like, Mom, Sarah asked me to do a back walkover on the high beam and I couldn't do it. And at the time I said what every other mother in the world says is, that's okay, don't worry about it, you'll figure it out. And she was like, that is not going to work. And it was such an aha moment for me that, well, first of all, I was getting my master's at the time, so there was that. And I was like, oh, that's completely different. That's a mental thing. That has nothing to do with her physical. She's been doing the back walkover for 3 years, right? And so what I realized that day is you guys learn your skills, Cassandra, just by doing them. You're not taught to think about what you're doing. All athletes have what I call the doing strategy, where they just want to do it. They don't want to think about it. And that works pretty well for them for a long time, right? Just doing it. But then there's a situation where it doesn't work. And that's where the mind and the body get disconnected. And then all kinds of things get between the mind and the body. And that's what I call is in your A circle. Whatever's in our A circle is what's controlling you or what's making decisions for you in that situation. Okay, so in your A circle, then people can get, what if I don't do it? What if I upset my coach? What if my mom gets upset? What if I balk? What if I can't compete? What if I don't get recruited? Right? We can then get all kinds of things in our A circle, and that's what's controlling us in that moment. The biggest thing about inside out mentality versus outside in that people need to know is when somebody is disconnected mentally, most people are trying to fix an unconscious process with a conscious idea. Right? So Cassandra, when you couldn't do the skills that you knew you could do, coaches are typically saying, don't think about it, just do it. And when that doesn't work, that's where we get a lot of problems. For you, back then, when things got disconnected, how did that affect you?
When things would get disconnected, it would just make me feel so off, and I would feel disappointed, and I would just not feel like myself. Some days it would really just be hard to convince myself, oh, I'm going to gym today, or oh, I'm going to beam, and I haven't done a back handspring at all today. And then I would just be like an ongoing cycle. And I feel like I was really internalizing me not going with it and going for it, and just constantly getting like that outside corrections from my mom trying to help or from the coach trying to help, and it just feel like I was internalizing it so much.
Well, you really bring up a great example of how an athlete feels equal to the problem. When coaches are saying to athletes, get out of your head, you're overthinking it, don't think about it, just do it. When that doesn't work, and then the athlete doesn't do what the coach needs them to do, the athlete takes full responsibility of the problem. They take it on because the coach is saying, just do it. Don't think about it. Like that's easy. But when that doesn't happen, the athlete will feel equal to the problem. I had a level 10 the other day talking to me about when she can't do her blind, the coaches and the teammates are like, just do it. Don't think about it. And it makes her to this day feel so bad about herself when she can't do that. So it's not even the problem anymore. It's the judgment we have on ourselves about the problem that gets in our A circle and then controls us. And then parents then tend to say the same thing. You did it yesterday. I don't know why you can't do it today. You know, what's the problem? What do you need? You know, the coaches are telling you what to do. You're not making the effort. You're not doing what they're asking of you. You're not coachable. You know, we've got all these things then that coaches say to the athletes, and I don't mean anything negative. It has nothing to do with, you know, positive or negative, or it is what it is. And this is what's happening. And it's not what the coach says to an athlete, it's how the athlete perceives it that controls them moving forward. And so that's what this is about, is understanding how to manage those things and how to take care of themselves. So in any situation, they can do what they want to do. Because there's not a coach in the world that doesn't want the athlete to do the skill. But they may not know how to help the athlete connect the dots to do what they need to do this, the skill. And so does that make sense, Cassandra? Feeling equal to the problem?
Yes.
And then, so TImberlee, tell me when did you come to me? Do you remember the situation that you guys were having where you contacted me about?
Well, I mean, because like I said, we've been seeing you off and on, you know, since about 2018, 2019. And I think about, I don't know, 2021, 2022. I mean, she's had a few injuries. So she had like she tore her ankle when she was 8, and then she tore her hamstring. And, you know, so we moved gyms because of jobs, and we moved states. So she's had a lot in her, you know, I guess in her A circle, she's had a lot of changes, and I feel like she's dealt with them well. But I feel like maybe as a parent, I didn't realize I think in her mind, I was supporting the coaches a lot more than I was her. I just didn't know what to do because, you know, she was struggling, and, you know, we were doing privates, and then you could tell that she wasn't feeling very positive about herself or the situation. And I just said, I don't know what I'm doing. Can you help me? Because, you know, I thought I was doing everything right. I was doing absolutely everything wrong because, you know, when I was saying, hey, do you need the privates? Like I said earlier, I was telling her that she couldn't do it on her own. When I was, you know, I think I was focusing so much on the problem that was what was becoming bigger, instead of me just being her mom and just her being able to talk and that be her safe space. And then when I started working with you, you kind of, I mean, you told me, hey, look, this is what's happening. She's feeling equal to the problem. And I didn't completely understand it. And then I stepped back and I started watching, and I just let things happen. And then she started coming to me more. And then, you know, I was upset, and I'm like, oh no, what do I do? And you're like, nope, that's just what is happening. That's the process. If she wasn't coming to you, if she didn't get upset, then I would be concerned. But I mean, looking back, I wish I would have known. I wish I would have reached out to you earlier, because I feel like when I started working with you, I feel like she and I had a better understanding of the process, that I just needed, it's her journey. And I've always said that, but I think I've always inserted myself in her journey, trying to make it as easy for her as possible. And I did the exact opposite.
You really bring up an important point that I think all parents do automatically. And I tell athletes this, that, you know, your parents and coaches tend to focus on the problem. And when they're looking at the problem, they're going to try to fix the problem, which is a symptom of it's not really the problem, it's the symptom. So lacking confidence is the symptom. Negative self-talk is the symptom. Not being able to do this skill is the symptom. I had a level 10 who's trying to get recruited, and the person that I work with to support them to get recruited called me. And she said to me, can you have her write things down? She's not getting what you're saying to her. And I said, well, it's not about her not getting it. It's about her not wanting a solution. Because a lot of times when an athlete is not doing what they need to do, there's a reason for the problem. There's a resource in the problem still. So for instance, if the athlete isn't doing her skills, let's say she has to do a Maloney. But then what happens is if she does the Maloney, then she automatically in her A circle, now I have to compete it. Now what if I do all my skills and I still don't get recruited? What if I, do what I need to do and then I can't, I don't get the offer. And so what happens is we're going to tend to focus on the problem, but I'm always going to flip it upside down and look at it from a different perspective because it's a resource for the athlete. So for instance, if your athlete is striking out at the plate, there's a resource isn't in it for them. Even though they don't want to consciously, it's not a conscious issue. It's an unconscious process that's happening to them for a reason. And so when parents look at the problem, I want parents to look at it as, oh, I wonder why they're continually doing this. I wonder what the benefit is for them to do this unconsciously. Maybe they're afraid to be successful. Maybe they've got some fear in their A circle about missing their hands on the beam. Maybe they, there's always a reason for the problem. And so when people understand that, it helps at least shift their perception instead of just focusing on, we got to get rid of the problem. That doesn't really help the athlete get rid of the problem. But the solution, on the other hand, the benefit of this work, Cassandra, is no matter what, now you know that there's a solution, even if you don't have one in that situation. Right? Can you think of a skill you couldn't do? Can you maybe, I don't know if this is possible, but can you explain your process from going from what like a skill you couldn't do, and then what you did mentally to help yourself connect the dots to be able to do it?
Yes. One of my skills that I was able to like grasp again and like connect the dots again was like a round off layout on the floor. I had like such a hard time committing to it and going for it on the floor. And I would do it on the mats and the resi, and if I had a mat, I would go for it. If I did it on the tumble track, I would go for it. But every time I would try to go for it on the floor, my brain would just say like, it's not ready for this, like it's not ready for this. So when I was on like the resi floor, I would end up doing and trying to focus on like feeling that landing in my body and feeling like my feet hit the ground and preparing for that, what I knew was going to become a harder surface, and understanding like that's where my body's going to go. I'm feeling through this landing. And when I move it to the floor, I was able to connect those dots again and do it that way, just committing to like feeling that landing again. It's I'm punching and then I'm feeling the landing. And that's something that I feel like you really helped me with.
That's a really great example. And the learning strategy is if an athlete is not mentally connected to their body physically in the moment, that's when things can get between the mind and the body. So giving them a strategy to use to focus on what to do physically in the moment gives their mind a job. If we don't give our mind a job to do, it'll create its own job and it won't be helpful. And so that's a really great example of how you had a disconnect, how you took it back inside, you focused on feeling your way through, for you. That's what modality works. Some people see their way through, some people talk their way through, some people think their way through or feel or combination. But then being able to work through that process to stay in your body to do the layout is the way that you can then practice it. And that's then the solution. And you can use that in lots of other skills. Then you can map it across into different situations. And so that's a great example of that. Okay, so TImberlee, can you give maybe some, parents out there, what have you learned for yourself? Like, is there a specific example where you've been able to go from the problem to the solution for you?
Oh, for me personally, or for her as her mom or gymnast? Which
Oh,
way?
whatever pops into your head.
I mean, honestly, I've always been the type of person that I guess I search for solutions for problems. That's if there's a problem, I want to fix it, regardless of the situation. And for me, I had to start realizing that when I was focusing on the problem just got bigger. And then at some point, I said, I just don't know what to do. And so I'm like, okay, well, I was thinking about all the things I couldn't do. And then I needed to start processing and realizing that when I shifted my mindset and started thinking of what I could do and what can I do and what is the goal, what do I need to focus on, I realized things started getting better, even between Cassandra and myself. So when she was struggling through those moments, I remember that I would come home and ask her, did you do the skill? Did you do this? Did you do that? And that just made it so worse because that was what she was. I mean, tell me.
That was definitely like mostly what I was stressing about. Like, I didn't do the skill and now I'm gonna let another person down. And it's like, because getting asked that question, it made me feel like it was really important to her. So when I wasn't able to do it, then I felt like, oh, I'm letting somebody down because I'm not able to do it. And it just was making the problem even bigger.
So
You
then I
believed
realized
that. Yeah,
she did.
Cassandra, you believed that you were the problem. And then you believed that you were letting your mom down because coaches and parents do focus on the result. Also, did you do your skill today? And why not? If you didn't, or great, if you did, then we can move on from that problem, right?
Mhm.
Again, the problem is not them doing their skills or not, it's where they get disconnected to be able to not do what they know they could do. If you have an athlete that cannot do what you know they could do physically, then there's a mental disconnect somewhere in that process, cutting them off from the ability to focus on what they need to do. And more than likely, they're focusing on what they don't want to have happen or what they don't want to do versus what they do want to do because they're not taught to focus on what they do want. It's like if I have a baseball player and the coach is like, we need a hit, you know, no kidding. Like, what are we here for? Of course, we want to get a hit. But saying to the athlete, we need a hit is kind of implying that, you probably didn't get one last time. So we could really use one from you this time. And so there's, instead of focusing on how do I need to get a hit, stay in your body, focus on what works best for you, take, take the pitch that is given to you and do your best within that. But they're not, obviously that's a weird way to talk to athletes. I'm not saying people need to do that, but at the same time, when we're feeling equal to the problem, and then somebody mentions the problem, then it just builds on the problem instead of not,
So
right?
so then I had to realize that I was causing more issues for her. And then I had to retrain my brain and say, okay, well, how do you feel about today? And then what do you want to talk about? Instead of me talking about right where it hurt her the most is what she wasn't doing. And so then I realized that I had to start asking her what she wanted to do and what were some of her goals. And something I learned from you is always I would say, hey, what do I need to do? What can I say? Because at that point I knew I was just doing everything wrong. And so I started asking her more of, well, what was your goal? You know, how do you think you're going to get there? And then I realized that sometimes that wasn't working so well because she thought I was trying to coach her, but I wasn't. I was just trying to open the communication. So then I just realized I need to say, how did your day go? Right? And what do you want to talk about? And I told her, like, if I continue to talk about something you don't, please just say, Mom, can we not do gym anymore? And then it's like, you might have to ask me a couple times. And then, I think we're better. Obviously, it's still a learning process, but I think it's better. What do you think?
Cassandra, I had this conversation with a level 6 or 7 today. And this is her second session, and I went to Florida last week, and I met with a bunch of 4 kids, and the mom, had talked to me since then, and I said to the athlete, I said, you can say to your mom, you don't need to fix things right now, but I just need to vent. I need to talk about the girl at practice, or my coach, or my situation, or the fact that I couldn't get my hands on the beam on my back walkover. But I just need to vent. I just need to process. You don't need to fix it. You don't need to call the coach. You don't need to, just giving parents permission to not have to do something is so helpful for the athlete. Because then the athlete, I'll never ever forget, Olivia came home one time and she sat on the couch and she cried big old tears, and I just had to bite my tongue, and I wanted to go into that gym so bad, and I just wanted to pull her out of there and never come back and tell them what I felt, about the way they made her feel at 8 years old or 9 years old or however old she was. And I literally had to go into my bedroom and I cried. I was just like, oh my God. And then I kicked that out of my A circle and I went back out there and I'm like, okay. And you just don't have to say anything, because at the root of every problem lies the solution. And if we're jumping in our kids' A circle and cutting them off from every problem because we're uncomfortable, well, that's preventing them to get to the solution, which is at the root of the problem. So we have to allow our kids to be uncomfortable, because as they process, as they vent, as they get through that, that's where their solution lies. And so that's the benefit. If people can understand that, then it's not as difficult to go, oh my gosh, my daughter would be like, I think my back is broken again and my wrists are broken again. And I'm like, I want to just tell her to quit. That's not helpful for her. Okay, what do you need me to do? Do we need another MRI? What do you need? Do you want to take a week off? Oh, it's fine. I'm just venting. Okay, great, vent away, right?
Right.
And so I think
Yeah.
that I tell athletes that because it's really valuable for parents to know that you don't have to fix them. They're not broken. And these sports can be really difficult, but oh well, that's the whole point. We got to give them what they need so that they can learn. So unlike me at 18, I'm like, I don't think I gave this kid what he needs to live on his own. Holy crap, because that's just life. Cassandra, makes sense?
Yes.
Yes, being able to tell your mom, and you guys bring up another good point, goal beyond the goal. Cassandra, do you love goal beyond the goal?
I do love Goal
Oh
Beyond the
my
Goal.
gosh. So tell us a little bit about your situation now. You've been, are you okay to talk a little bit about it? You've been,
Yes.
okay, so tell us what happened and what's been going on for you now this season.
So around July 22nd, I was having some pretty bad back pain, and we decided a few weeks out to go see a doctor and get an MRI and get all that in. And we got the results back, and it turns out I had a grade 3 stress reaction on my lowest lumbar and my back. And I was told I had to take a break. I'm not allowed to do any gymnastics. I can only walk for 5 weeks. I can only do walking, and then slowly getting back into it. I mean, it's been 22 weeks now. I'm still not back to normal, and it's so hard. But for me, Goal Beyond the Goal is the only reason I can keep going. It's okay, I can do round off on the floor now, oh, I can start working it up on a high beam. Like that's how I have to keep working it forward. And then it's like knowing like next week I can start doing dismounts on bars. Like that can just keep helping me move forward and not feel so defeated about what I can't do, but like looking forward at what I can do. Like, how is this like kicking to a handstand and doing cartwheels on the floor and doing all that stuff going to help me in the future when I'm able to start tumbling again?
Yes, you've been working extremely, I don't want to say hard, because everything is hard, wherever, whatever place you're at, depending on everybody's situation in any sport and really in life. But you have mastered the mentality of being in your body, connecting the dots from the inside out with what I can do today and how that's going to build tomorrow, with intention to have a goal beyond that, which is goal beyond the goal. And so whether the athlete is, not doing anything, walking for 5 weeks, or whether they're doing all their skills right now for the season, the strategy is the same. The it's all a part of it. The situation is all just a part of what the athlete can do today to move forward, to do their best, so that they're prepared for what they want to be doing moving forward. So goal beyond the goal beyond the goal is so valuable for anybody who's experiencing some hard times, because if we don't have a strategy to use when things are hard, most people quit, or they give up on themselves, or they settle. And then that mental disconnect, or that struggle, that mental block, tends to carry on with them the rest of their life. And we as adults all understand that for ourselves, because of the limited things that we experience that are still affecting us, that we didn't know a solution for back then, that now is still sabotaging us, and that is creating a pattern of sabotage for us. And so, Cassandra, I'm so proud of how you have managed yourself. And having a goal beyond the goal is crucial to keeping it intentional. I'll never forget with my daughter, she had been recruited as a sophomore. Back then they did that. And her senior year, the day before the signing, the coaches from Ball State called me and they said she had had an L5 fracture in her back since about September. And this was in November, the day before the signing, the day you sign with all your friends. And they called me the day before and they said, we're going to take back the scholarship. And I was like, oh my God, like as her mother, like what are we supposed to do? You can't go get another scholarship. Now she's a senior and she's got a broken back. Like, oh my, I kept it to myself, TImberlee. I was like, okay. And they said, when she gets her skills back, then we'll give it back to her. And I said, Liv, how do you feel about that? And she goes, well, Mom, of course I'm going to get my skills back. I'm competing in college. Goal beyond the goal. I thought, oh my God, thank God for goal beyond the goal, because it never obviously she thought about it and it affected her, but it never was in her A circle when she was doing gymnastics, because her goal was to make lineup. And not only did she got her skills back, and by February, Cassandra and I talk about this all the time. And then she was competing better than she had done when she was recruited. By the time state came around, you guys know state's in March, they didn't give her a scholarship till April. And she made the lineup and she competed all around for them for about the first 5 meets at Ball State. She was prepared to make the lineup. And so what's valuable about goal beyond the goal, Cassandra, and parents need to know, it can't be my goal. And if they don't know, like if I say to an athlete, what's a good goal beyond the goal for you 2 years down the road? If they say, I have no idea, I don't answer for them. I say, okay, consider that. Think about that. Because you can change your mind. But having a goal beyond the goal keeps them mentally connected. So when things get bumpy in the middle here, they can still they're like, yeah, but I'm gonna compete in college. Yeah, but I don't know how the scholarship's gonna come. I don't know what's gonna happen, but I'm gonna be prepared for that. And it takes out all the pressure and the stress of having to do it a certain way so that I can focus on what I need to do today to move toward my goal one step at a time. And that's all we can control anyway.
Right. I really liked this, the goal beyond the goal, because she has had quite the journey. And I decided this year that I was going to take a step back. And when this happened, Cassandra was just devastated. And as we all were, because she had just come back from a hamstring injury the year prior. And so she missed level 9 last year because the hamstring injury. And then this year she missed level 9 because of the back. But she
All right.
was working with you the whole time because I said, okay, we got to keep this going because I know this is going to be hard. And with the hamstring injury, she said, no, mom, I didn't need it because she was worried about, financially it's going to cost. And she was worried that I'm not doing gymnastics. So it's kind of not worth it. So if I can't do gymnastics, I don't really need Stacy's help at this moment. And I said, no, I think we're going to do it differently this time. We're going to continue working with Stacy, and she can help you remember, and I think it's gone a lot better. What would you say?
Definitely.
What do you think?
Cassandra, what would you say to that? Because that happens a lot. When people have a mental block, when their child has a mental block, it's very apparent and they know to call me. I always tell parents, of course, call me when there's a mental block. But the benefit when they don't have a mental block is to layer the success mentality. And that's what people don't realize is possible. If you don't know how you're successful and what's happening while you're being successful, how can you repeat it? How can you duplicate it? How can you do it more? How do you know then what to do to continue that? And so that's what's so beneficial. And also, if there is something that pops into your A circle in a negative way, you don't have to live with it for the next year. We'll deal with it right now. So it prevents so many things from affecting you over time. If somebody falls and you saw them, or if a coach says, if you don't do your skills today, you're not going to compete tomorrow, right? Or, all these things that can get into our A circle, we don't want that to be longer than a week. And I do work with people on those things. I break things down 15 minutes at a time. So it's not like you're paying for half an hour, to do 15 minutes and things like that. But Cassandra, for you, when you kind of step back and think of, for you mentally, what for you is getting better? Like what your mental strength, can you define that? Like, how do you do that and how do you build on that? What does that look like for you? Can you describe that at all?
I can try to describe it. It's kind of hard to describe like that mental strength. I definitely know I've developed it a lot, especially working with you like more consistently. I would say something that I've really worked on and it has really improved is like how much my awareness of everything and my awareness of what I'm thinking, what's in my A circle, how I need to like get to this next goal, like connecting the dots and being aware of, oh, that's why I wasn't doing it. And also like as time goes on, same thing like with body awareness as a gymnast, like as you do more gymnastics, your body gets more aware. And I feel like as I'm more aware of what my body's doing, I'm just as aware of what my mind's doing. So I'm really able to like connect the dots where I need to.
Yeah, and you and I have never talked about it like that. That's incredible that you're able to map across the awareness of separating you from the sport, so you're no longer the problem, by the way, and then being able to look at a problem, I can't do a skill, as not a problem, but just a part of the process, to you being able to go, oh, I see why I'm not doing that, because I have this idea in my head that's preventing me from focusing on how I need to get my hips up over the bar to do my handstand so that I can do my giant, so that I can go into my dismount, whatever. Or I just need to separate the idea of competing out of my A circle so I can focus on the dismount without stressing about it because I need to compete next week. Right? All
Mhm.
those things, these strategies provide the ability to be aware and then separate those thoughts from you. And that's what people don't realize is the benefit to that is then they can be aware of the resources they use in the sport, and then they're their resources, not the sport. Like when people leave the sport, they tend to, the resources go with the sport, and that's what causes them problems after they're done competing. That doesn't happen. My daughter, she was happy to be done. I have to say, her last meet, I was, a little emotional. And then literally I had a goal beyond the goal for me that was so beyond her doing gymnastics that as soon as that she landed that third pass on that last meet in gymnastics in college, and I was like, oh my God, I think I'm gonna get a passport and I'm gonna travel to clients around the world. And literally, you guys, she comes up to me, she goes, Mom, don't you even want a picture with me? Because I was on with my next thing, and I'm like, oh my God, Liv, I'm sorry. Of course, yeah, let's, I was like, it was her last meet of her life, 25 hours a week training her entire life, right? So goal beyond the goal can be really helpful. But once she got through that, she was fine. She was on to the next thing. She's maximized her opportunities with gymnastics. She's fulfilled. She literally left a great legacy there. I heard her name and the meet the other night. They mentioned her name, that this new girl who's also my client going into Utah State has big shoes to fill for my daughter Olivia. Now I text Olivia, I go, Olivia, you're on the, so she had to watch it anyway. Like those are all great things because she maximized those strategies and she could take the resources with her, so she doesn't feel like she's less than anything because of this, because of she's no longer doing the sport. She could do Pilates with me and be bad at it.
But that's what I love also is that the fact that she, with you working with her consistently, it has allowed her to, and helped me allow her to also, she's able to formulate her own thoughts. I love it when she comes home and, she'll tell me about something. And in the past, I would usually insert myself. And then this time, and I'm sometimes I'll say, well, how does that make you feel? She goes, I don't need to really worry about that. So she's not letting the outside affect what she wants to accomplish. And I feel like that can benefit not just in gymnastics, because she's taking these strategies outside of gymnastics and she's just becoming so strong mentally, and she's becoming such a leader at her gym and with her teammates. And she's gone through these things and she hears her teammates saying, complaining about how things are. And she just sits back and kind of smiles because she's gone through a lot. She doesn't share it, but she appreciates all that she has gone through. And then she also appreciates the fact that she realizes that those outside things don't have to control her anymore.
Cassandra, okay. My favorite gift for Christmas this year was from you. I should have had it up here. I wear it all the time. And it's a hat and it says, what's in your, and then she's got a red circle on it, what's in your A circle. And I have to tell you, and maybe I told you this in session, but I was in Florida and I was at the Whole Foods store with my hat on. And this woman comes up to me and she goes, what does your hat mean? And I go, oh, well, A circle, whatever's in your A circle is what's controlling you or what's making decisions for you. We can have lots of things in our A circle. We can have people, we can have thoughts, I'm not good enough. We can have energy, anxiety, we can have all kinds of things. And she looked at me, she's like, oh, And I'm like, yeah, do you have a lot of things in your A circle? She's like, yeah. And Cassandra, you know, I love that because you have used these strategies, like your mom said, not just in gymnastics, but it is embedded in your life. And it's so refreshing and beautiful to see how you connect the dots. You have a website. Will you tell us a little bit about that? You create things. So tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so with the back injury and having so much time off, I was bored. I was like, I need something to do. So I finally decided to pursue like creating my own business, and because I make bows and jewelry and hats and shirts and stuff just because I find it fun. I enjoy being creative with it. And I finally decided to launch it. I have a website, the Cassie Co Boutique on Etsy, and it's definitely helped me a lot.
That's awesome. I love it. And what is your goal beyond the goal for you for that?
My goal beyond the goal for me for that is just to keep going with it and continue being creative. I would love to get it as big as I can, obviously, just because it could just be another outlet, another way to go, another option for however whatever I decide to do. But I just want to keep it going and keep it lighthearted and not like too serious with it.
Okay, I love that. Um, and so Cassandra, for you, what is the one thing that you feel your mom has learned that has been helpful for you as an athlete? Is there any particular thing that, and you can explain it maybe from what she did before, what she's doing now, or just something that you have gotten that's different from her?
Um, I feel like once she started working with you, it's definitely been different. I know there's so many times where just like your daughter would come home complaining, I will come home like, oh, my knees hurt, my back hurts, and then it will be like that whole like, do you need to quit? Like, what do you need to do? And I remember that exact situation the same way, and now it's more of like, is there something like you need to ask your PT about? Like, do you need to work on something more? Is there something that I can get for you here at home so you can like keep working on it? And then like mentally, if it's like, wow, I was really scared today, she'll be like, do you need to go work on that with somebody sometimes? But now I'm able to say like, I'm good with it, there's nothing to stress about, like you don't need to worry about it. And I feel like that's like the relationship and like our conversations about gym has really changed.
Yes. And TImberlee, for you, for, maybe some advice for moms out there, parents, of athletes, what would you say is maybe the one thing that you can share that has been helpful for you to be doing?
I think just listen and validate her feelings. She doesn't need to be fixed. Um, allow them, just let it be a safe space. If she's venting, let her vent. And you mentioned that, hey, do I need to get in your A circle or do you just need to vent? So maybe ask questions, but just let them kind of navigate the situation. And if they're struggling, it's okay. That's how they grow, that's how they learn. Um, they can figure out what's going to work best for them because it is their journey ultimately.
Well, and I don't want to, parents have a lot to offer. I hear it all the time. The dad was a D1 baseball player and the mom ran track in college, and or it's it's not that I think that parents don't need to offer things to their kids like that. But see, watch how your child is perceiving that. When you say something to them, are they coming alive with it or are they shrinking? How are they perceiving you? And then you can have the conversation. Well, I don't mean to get in your face. Or, Libby called me one time and she's like, Mom, my coaches and my teammates, I have to be first on beam because I have to be consistent and confident. And I'm like, Well, if you're okay with having your coaches and your teammates in your A circle, I'm okay with it. Right? Like, I don't care. I don't really care. Like, if people want to have, like we were talking, sometimes the athlete can get mad at the coaches and then not do the skill because they feel like coaches caused this problem. They have a disconnect and now they have a mental block on a skill because the coach keeps yelling at them or kicking them off the equipment or making them climb the rope or whatever. And then the athlete unconsciously is upset and won't do it. And I'm like, if you're okay with that coach in your A circle and you don't want to do it, I'm okay with it. Right? Like there's all good reasons to not do stuff. But when you present it like that to the athlete, then the athlete's like, well, but I really would just want to do my skill. Then I can say, okay, well, then you got to kick your coach out. Right? Or focus on the skill, or what's the solution for you, right? So moving through some of those things that people are experiencing, parents, I always say this to athletes, parents are going to see their athlete from their potential way up here. And what happens is if the athlete isn't performing way up here, the parent is going to recognize that, and the parent is going to point it out. Well, I saw you, you struck out 3 times at the plate today. Yeah, I did. Thank you. Like, no kidding. Like the athlete doesn't know that that's the problem, right? But but if I say to the athlete, your parents are going to see you from your potential, and if you're performing down here, they're going to point it out. Take it as a compliment. Take it as a compliment that they know you can do it and that you can perform up here. But then you can say, okay, Dad, that's not helpful. That's not helpful when you say that to me. That's not, I appreciate you're trying to get me to perform in my potential, but I need to figure out how to connect the dots. I need to figure, then we have other options. But I like that. And like I said, parents mean well, but if you can teach your kids A circle, it's going to be so much easier for them to be able to communicate what they need. Okay. Anything else that you guys can think of, or, what I loved, Cassandra, about what your mom said, you are leaving. I always said to my daughter in her last season, I said, what legacy do you want to leave? What mark do you want them to remember you by? You're already doing that without being done. You're creating a culture. And when athletes are mentally strong, I always encourage them to fill in those gaps with what's going on for themselves mentally so that they can be aware of what they need to do physically. And when they show up for themselves and they communicate what they need and they manage their A circle and they're keeping their coaches where they need to be to perform, to do their best or to compete or to make the lineup or whatever that is, then they're creating the culture that they can create in the team with a team, and people are going to learn from you without even saying anything. You don't have to have everybody learn A circle for them to get a lot from you. Is there anything in particular you feel people are learning from you as you are becoming more and more mentally strong?
I feel like since I'm like one of the older girls on my team, I feel like I've I definitely notice a lot of like younger girls watching me all the time, just because I know as a younger girl, I watch the older girls, and that's just what happens in gymnastics, especially. And I feel like the way like I keep going, and the like I feel like I'm being very respectful to my coaches, but I'm also like doing what I need to, and I'm performing well. I'm coming back pretty strong, and I've had injuries, and like they've seen it and they've seen me come in, and I feel like I'm I'm hoping I'm teaching them anyways that like you don't have to have that perfect gymnastics career that everybody hopes they have. Like it does not have to be like the straight like 2 through 10 path. You can go to Excel, you can do a break year, you can have injuries and you can repeat levels, but you can still get where you want to be and still work hard and not just do stuff because you feel like you have to, and just do it because you know you love it and just have fun with it.
Exactly. And TImberlee, where have you seen her as far as like leadership role, or what do you see that she keeps building on, maybe mentally?
I think with her mentally and her leadership role and what she's building upon, I feel that she communicates with her coaches really well. And I know a lot of people often when they struggle, they will shut down or they don't know how to communicate. And I feel that by her doing that communication, because we've always taught her to be an advocate to herself and that you can respectfully tell your coaches what you need to do, and then you have allowed her to realize that you can do what you can do, and then how they perceive it, that's what they perceive and you can't change that. And so she knows that she needs to communicate, and I feel like her teammates are realizing that a lot of the problem is that communication, that if they're scared or if they need a spot, they need to ask for it, because if a coach sees that they're not doing something, they automatically assume that they don't want to. And so I think Cassandra, is showing them that they can communicate, and, it is okay not to be perfect. And even though she had that back injury, she did not miss one day. So yes, she only went in for a half an hour to stretch or to walk around or to touch the beam, but she went in every single day. So an athlete has a similar injury to her and hasn't really missed much time either. And I feel like they see her there every day, and they know that it's important to show up whether you can physically do the skills or whether you can't. Her coaches, I know they see that as well. They see that she's there every day. Um, and I feel like that's extremely important, is to be able to communicate and then to um, just show up every day for them.
And I know coaches can be hard, and they don't always know what to do when an athlete is mentally struggling. And I think a great tip for that is to, when you're an athlete, talk from what you are willing to do or what you can do. If they say you need to do your series on the high beam right now or you're not competing tomorrow, and if you're, mentally got some things in your A circle preventing you from doing that, you can say, okay, can I do it 5 times on the low beam before I take it to the high beam? And then practicing, feeling your way through, seeing your way through, talking, thinking, so that when you are in the high beam, then you have a practicing mentality to use. They're more likely to support you. They don't really want to be in your A circle. They just need you to do what they need you to do. And so if you're willing to show up and, like you're doing, Cassandra, communicate what you can do and they're going to support you all day long, because they know they can rely on you to do what you're saying you're going to do. But that's like the definition of inside out. That's when you are connected mentally to your body in the moment. That when you live from that perspective, nobody can argue with. I mean, people can argue with you, but they're not. You're living in your potential. You're doing your best because you're connected. That's what I call so connected. When your mind and body are on the same page, when your conscious and your unconscious mind are connected, when who you are is connected to what you do. When we live from that perspective, that is our potential. That is where we are our best. And so that when you can practice that, it's super fun. And that's what you're doing so well, Cassandra. I couldn't be more proud. And TImberlee, you did the adult program with me, and I was kind of learning about it at the time. So it was such a great team to get some feedback from you. And but if you're watching this and if you're still here with us, please subscribe to this. Thanks for watching, and share it. If you know somebody that can benefit from this. I so appreciate you guys being on with me, and I'm gonna so have you on again. Anything else you want to finish with for today?
What do you say?
Um, Honestly, just keep working at it and you'll get there, as long as it's still in your A circle and you keep working for it, goal beyond the goal.
Absolutely. TImberlee, anything else?
I think as a parent, we have to listen to our kids, focus on the solutions, not our solutions, but what are their solutions, and just learn to listen and be there for them. And it's not about just gymnastics, it's about the whole individual and what it is it that they want.
I couldn't have said it better. Absolutely. And you guys, again, we'll do this again. I really appreciate you guys being here. And thanks to the audience. And we'll see you on the next Mental Edge podcast.